Good morning and welcome to Mornings with Mary. It is Monday morning and it's been a while since I've been on. We had to put our dog down last week for those of you who don't know, and that's really hard. And then we got a surprise family member on Saturday. So Tuesday we put our old girl down and on Saturday we got a new member of the family. So all of that made me think about grief. And we had days that we were processing all of this. And it made me think about the grief that I went through when Elizabeth was diagnosed, when Sarah was diagnosed, when I was diagnosed. So that's what I want to talk about today. So today we're going to talk about grief and the silver lining of a diagnosis. I would love to hear your story. So please join us. Come on in and let me know what you're thinking, because your stories are just as important as mine. So let's get going. Good morning, Becky. How are you, my love? So today, if I look a little tired, it's because we have that new family member. Her name is Roxy, and she's very, very sweet. But she's also new to the home, and she's been up at like 3 a.m, which means Major has to go out at 3 a.m. So it's kind of like having a new baby in the house. So anyway, this morning, as I've mentioned, is that I want to talk about the grief that goes with the diagnosis. And some people don't experience this. Yeah, crazy morning here too. Totally crazy, Becky. I totally get it. I'm like trying to drink cup number 2 today, and I've been up a really long time. And some people actually, when I posted this, got really, really mad at me and actually used like the F word, the F-bomb, about calling them like, I don't remember what it was, but something like fucking babies or something. And it really sort of made me not giggle at her reaction, but just like, wow, I didn't realize this was going to hit someone's buttons. Like, there is grief, at least for me, when I get a new diagnosis. So first there was a diagnosis of food allergies in our house. And it wasn't like I was totally upset that we had food allergies. It was a recognition of what I already suspected. But then there was this process, and it's happened every time we get a restricted list of, wait, there's more I can't have, there's more I can't do. This doesn't feel fair. I've never gone through denial with it because I can't bargain with my body. It just doesn't happen. But sometimes it's been really hard. Like, we can't have birthday cake. We can't do egg, we can't do dairy, we can't do gluten, we can't do sugar. So gone are those birthday cakes. Gone is like that impromptu, let's go out to eat. All that stuff is gone. We have 2 places where we can go. Five Guys, which we know ends up giving us a stomach ache, and Qdoba. That's it. And only one Qdoba, because there's only people there that we trust. Then there's the diagnosis that has to do with emotions and the brain. And this is what made me think about this as I was processing the grief of baby, because we knew for 12 weeks, we knew that her time was coming. So, when your child is suffering, when they are struggling, something's wrong. You may have a suspicion of what it is. You may know, you think you know what it is. And it feels really great when the doctor comes back and says, here's the diagnosis. It's like, it affirms you. Or maybe it just completely blows your mind because you don't know what it is. Like, I know when we got the diagnosis for Elizabeth that we suspected learning disabilities, but then we finally knew what they were. That was reaffirming. We actually thought that she had Asperger's. Good morning. Come join us on the conversation. So Elizabeth actually doesn't have Asperger's, and she doesn't have autism, which was really weird because that's how her symptoms present. If you read over like the checklist of it, she's like bingo, 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 bingo. But when you go through the neurological testing, her severe anxiety shows up as what would be classified as autism and schizophrenia. But she doesn't actually have either. She has severe anxiety to the point where it stops her from being able to function. Good morning, Tabitha. Welcome to the talk. I hope you guys really join in and talk to me about your thoughts and your feelings on these diagnoses and the grief and the silver lining. So when we first got Elizabeth's diagnosis, it was really hard for me. There was this whole grief process of, wow, I now know what it is, but what do I do with it? So my way of dealing with that is I researched the shit out of everything. I'm like, I want to know everything about it. What can we do? How can we get this under control? How can I best be her support? What can I do? And I'm a doer. And my husband, if it wasn't for the fact that he's Scottish and English, I'd swear to God he's Egyptian, because denial is his thing. He's like, nope, that doesn't exist. It's not here. And that was really hard. It's like, here's one of us trying to find a solution and one of us saying, oh, it doesn't exist. How did I get help for Elizabeth? Basically, we had to, I can't even begin to tell you how many therapists we went through. And like for a while, she didn't want to go on meds, and I didn't want to put her on meds. And so we tried diet. We even went to a holistic psychiatrist, and she had like 30 pills to take. And she's like, Mom, I can't do this. I just can't. And we ended up finding a psychiatrist that did the mouth swab. I think it's called Gene Sense. Don't quote me on that. But they did the mouth swab and found the right concoctions for her, but not after 3 hospitalizations, like inpatient psych ward hospitalizations. And it wasn't until the last one, good morning, that we were actually able to get the diagnosis of bipolar, because that was what I had suspected. And I sat down with the psychiatrist at the inpatient hospital in Connecticut. And I was like, look, this is what I'm suspecting. I know it runs in her father's side of the family. Can you do an eval for this? And that was really hard. So Becky says, that was what I asked when I got the diagnosis. Yeah, how can I get help? Where can I go? Well, there were no answers. And there was no support for the parent. Like they just said, here's your bipolar, PTSD, severe anxiety, depression kid. And oh, by the way, it's bipolar too. So she's not going to have high highs. She's going to live every day low and lower. Here's a piece of paper. This is what it says. Now go. It was heartbreaking. I mean, I got to tell you, I went through a whole process of grief. And not that my child had died, not that she had cancer, but my hopes and dreams for her future. Mine. It was all about me. My hopes and dreams. My visions of who she would become. What I had envisioned for her, they died. I mean, they absolutely died. Now, it doesn't mean they haven't been reborn. It doesn't mean they haven't been reworked. But in that moment, they died. I have to be honest. And I grieved for what I wanted her, what I wanted for her. Same thing with Sarah. When Sarah came back with a diagnosis, okay, Becky says there aren't many or appropriate resources to help even when you have money or insurance. No, we have both. I mean, we're not rolling in the dough, but we've got enough. You know, we can afford to send her to a really good hospital. Our insurance, I went over, we did our taxes on Saturday. Our medical expenses, including paying for the insurance and anything and out of pocket, $30,000 last year. $30,000. For some people, that's an entire salary. Holy shit, like $30,000. My daughter, my oldest, Elizabeth, has to have medical coverage. She will not survive without it. I sometimes wonder if that's what the government wants. Like, let's just screw everybody up so we can like kill off the old people and the mentally disturbed, what they call disturbed. All right. But when Sarah was diagnosed, she was diagnosed with severe anxiety, severe dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, an IQ of 70, which is not true. Yeah. Okay. We have medical bills on each kid's of $600 to $1,000 a week, and each kid. Easy. Isn't it disgusting? Okay. I have to take some coffee. I'm sorry. I swallowed quietly enough. But it was heartbreaking. And then I didn't even realize that Sarah had this vision issue until last November, because her anxiety was so bad. She literally was having panic attacks constantly, and we were going to bring her to the psychiatrist. And as I was sending over her neuroeducational diagnosis stuff, there's one sentence in there that says she has a 1% visual comprehension. It's not even mentioned in her diagnosis. Well, again, I went through all this grief process of why didn't I know? Why didn't I see this? Why did I only turn to the back page of a 40-plus page, document and only read over what apparently they felt was appropriate to tell me? And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, they're not going to make any money off of telling me about her eye thing, so why would they? Becky says, yes, and we have individualized instructions and have reconstructed our lives to address these issues. Yes, our entire life has been restructured. We can't go on vacations. We can't just get up and go. Everything that we do has to go through this filter of, can Elizabeth handle it? Can Sarah handle it? Are we able to deal with the consequences and the ramifications if we do this? It is constantly going through that filter. There's no more just up and go. Like, I watch these families that can just up and go, and I got to be honest, sometimes I'm really envious. I'm really envious of families that can just do things. They don't have to think about, well, how is this going to affect the child? Am I able to deal with this? Where are we going to go? I mean, we have to think through every single stage of something. Even getting Roxy, we had to think through, okay, who's going to handle this? How is it going to affect the family? How is it going to affect their anxiety? How is it going to affect the PTSD? And it's exhausting. It's exhausting. It really, really is exhausting. And their special needs, at least in the case of my family, they're not seen. No one looks at my kids and says, wow, we need to be more patient with them. They have special needs. I have a friend in Seattle whose son has such severe autism. He can barely speak. He's 7 years old, 5 feet tall, and still he will never be able to toilet himself. He will probably never be able to say I love you to his parents. He has an iPad that they're teaching him how to use and how to communicate. But this is a man who I grew up with, and I know that we dated for a little while, and he was angry one night when Elizabeth was 4 years old and needed her mommy because he wanted time with me too. He's now a pastor, and I find it interesting that God has sent him a child that needs so much from him and of him, and how it has grown who he is as a person and made him an advocate for special needs. And that's one of the things that I think is one of the silver linings. Not only when you get a diagnosis are you able to go get the assistance that you need, because now you qualify for programs. So for example, with Sarah, with her eyes, she now qualifies for books from the Library from the Blind. Now, in the beginning, she's like, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm not blind. I can see. She's over here shaking her head. Come here. Come here. Say no. See? She didn't want that. She was, what? Come here.
No, I'm getting myself into the blanket.
Okay, get yourself in the blanket. But you were embarrassed, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it made you feel less than? Like there was something wrong with you?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with you, honey. Your eyes just don't work like everybody else's. Okay? Nah, I agree. But, you know, because of the diagnosis, she's able to qualify for programs like Learning Ally. And without that diagnosis, we'd never have that. She'd never be able to have the supports that she needs to succeed. And so often, that's the part that parents don't see that put off getting a diagnosis, is that they don't want to be labeled. They don't want their kids to be labeled. Okay, I get that. They wanted to label Elizabeth as emotionally disturbed in school. Well, I didn't want that on her record. I didn't want her to have this label that, you know, she would be disturbed. But the truth of the matter is she is emotionally disturbed. She has bipolar. She has severe anxiety. She has depression. She is emotionally disturbed. Yes, a diagnosis of autism, PTSD, and dyslexia open doors. Yes, it opens so many doors. I wish more parents would be less afraid. You want to snuggle? Okay.
Yes.
Would be less afraid of getting a diagnosis. Now, it is scary because it gives it a name. And when you have a name, that means you can't deny it. Okay? But giving it a name also takes away its power. It gives it the authority to give you the power rather than the problem. It's not a problem. It's simply something that needs to be addressed and needs to have the right resources. You know, without the dyslexia diagnosis for Sarah, like I said, there'd be no Learning Ally. There'd be no programs that would help support her. Without her 1% vision comprehension, she wouldn't be able to qualify for Library from the Blind. Good morning, Crystal. So all of what I want to talk about is just there is a grief process. It is heartbreaking. It is hard when your child comes back with a diagnosis, but it doesn't change your child. It doesn't change anything between you. They were exactly the same person before the diagnosis as they are after that doctor hands you a piece of paper. But there is a grief process. There's a grief process of admitting whatever it is real. And there's a grief process of whatever dreams you had for them are going to change. It doesn't mean they're all gone. It just means they're going to change. They're going to be rearranged. They're going to have to take on a different life. And that's okay. But it can be kind of hard. And I think our society doesn't want us to admit that there's grief in a diagnosis. But there is. There was grief when I lost, I've miscarried 7 times. I didn't know the baby. Like, I couldn't grieve for the fetus that was inside me. I grieved for the dreams that died. I grieved for what never was. And that, for me, is part of, like, what this whole diagnosis grief is for me, is it's a death of my dreams. So Becky says, this fear of labeling prevents us from helping and empowering. Yes, it allows my kids access to supports that will allow them to be independent adults. Yes, that's exactly it. And Allison says, I hate the labels, but when we had no clue how to help our daughter, it was scary and so stressful. Our 12-year-old daughter has ADHD, inattentive. Yeah, so does this one. Wave, say hello.
No.
No, SPD. Oh, she has SPD too. Both my girls do. Dyslexia, dysgraphia, and asp. No. Okay, I think I hit the wrong button. See more. It crushed me when she was diagnosed because it felt like we could have helped her sooner. Yes, and that's it. I mean, good morning, Crystal. I mean, it often feels like you failed because you didn't get the diagnosis soon enough. Like you're guilty of not knowing what you didn't know. I can't even begin to tell you how many nights I've gone to bed like crying because I didn't know what I didn't know, and I held myself responsible for not knowing what I didn't know. You see those eyes? She's like, yeah, right, Mom. I did. I mean,
I know you did.
Oh my God, yes. And mommy guilt. Can we discuss mommy guilt with all of this? Like somehow I'm responsible for however their brains were created in utero. Now, I can say that for Elizabeth, I can be somewhat responsible for the PTSD because I stayed married to an asshole, and I do kind of own that, but I don't own the PTSD caused by school. All right. Becky says, it feels like we failed because we didn't look sooner or push harder. My glasses are up in my head because my bifocals aren't working right for screening. Yes. The mommy guilt is brutal, and no one wants to talk about this. Yeah, it trusted people over my gut. Yeah. Yeah. And, trusting those people to give a diagnosis, sometimes you get like this wacky-ass diagnosis. Like, it makes no sense. And it's not right. Or you do know it's right. When we got the diagnosis for all the food allergies, that may not sound like a big deal, but each one of us has over 100 food allergies. That's a lot. And with Elizabeth, most things end up neurological. So she ends up suicidal. She ends up having massive reactions. She gets angry. She gets depressed. She gets homicidal. It's crazy. Like, do not give this child a cookie because it will literally kill her. For Sarah, it makes like panic attacks or intestinal issues.
What, sugar or gluten?
Sugar and gluten. Sugar gives her massive panic attacks to the point she can't function. The school officials told me they were fine. Oh, of course they'll tell you they're fine. Why? Because the school doesn't want to own anything. See, once the school admits that there's a problem, then they're financially responsible. Isn't that nice? So, for example, my stepdaughter had severe dyslexia. We lived in a really rich town. They have lots of funding. Yeah, I know. And they denied her rights as a dyslexic child because they went to outside testing done at a very reputable hospital that the city had said was fine. But then the school was denying them services, and she actually had to go to private school for 4 years. So Becky says, if I trusted the nutty psychologists in the schools, I wouldn't have my oldest right now. Yeah, exactly. And this is the part that no one wants to talk about. They don't want to talk about the ramifications of what these lack of proper labels and proper support is doing. We're going to go back to the Valentine's Day shooting, right? What happens? These kids are ostracized, they're labeled, and they don't then get the social skills that they need. Okay, Allison says, when our daughter was in public school, she was denied to get on a 504 plan or IEP program. Yeah, Elizabeth, you could not even understand how she was speaking to the point where the school psychologist was pulling her in for an IEP, and she was denied because she did okay on her test. It didn't affect her ability to learn. It only affected her ability to talk to anyone. So Becky says we sued for an IEP for Yeah, and I think you won if I'm right, correct, Becky? But was it worth the fight? Did it help? I know you needed it for your boys, but did it help your relationship with your boys? And did it help you? And I'm sure it was totally the right thing to do, and I'm awesome that you did exactly what we were told. Yeah. And I just, sometimes for me, and I like to fight. Come on, I've got red hair. I'm good at it. Give me a good debate, and man, I will take you up and down the street and dance with you and tango and salsa, and then I'll stomp on you and take you right out. Laugh all you want, but it's true. But sometimes the fight just isn't worth it because I know whatever happens isn't going to be in their best interest. Okay, if we had known then what we know now, I know I missed it. Probably would have walked away and just put them in private school and the school's expense at 2016. But it's not just, let me hit my hand, not about our families. It's about society. Oh my God, yes. And society and children. Okay, let me see. I missed one here. Allison says they wouldn't even allow her to have a rescue inhaler on her. Oh, I know. They can't do that. It had to be locked up in a damn nurse's office. Wait, do they even have nurses anymore? Last I heard, they don't even have nurses in schools. That's where I was every day from October to April in the nurse's office because I had asthma and it was cold up north. Yeah, but our kids are being denied all of this. And as parents, we are denied the grief process that happens with diagnosis. We're just told, here it is. Move on, get going. And some do, really? Wow, I didn't know that. Look, as parents, I think it's really okay, you're going to hold my coffee, thank you, sweetheart, to to recognize there is a grief process to the diagnosis and to not be ashamed of it. And if you're angry that I'm saying this, I'm sorry. Not everybody, is thinking that is such a great thing. Now, was I upset when I got my diagnosis for ADHD and my learning disabilities? Yeah, I was. I was 23 years old. I was more upset that I didn't know beforehand. Like, I could have done so much more had I had the support and the knowledge, but I didn't, okay? Yeah, Becky, I agree. You're told to get over it, move on. Allison says, ours had a nurse, but our kid almost died from an asthma attack to get her to be able to have it on hand. Yeah, isn't that stupid? My favorite, you want to know what my favorite was?
Oh, no.
So, no, this doesn't have to do with school. It has to do with the police department. So, but this reminded me of it, to have it on hand. Like, they almost have to die first. Good morning, Sarah. Was that, I was told by the state of Florida and by the state of Connecticut when I was going through, like, the after divorce stuff that happens, that if I let Elizabeth go with my ex, who had substantiated allegations of sexual abuse against him, so if I allowed her to go with him, the state of Connecticut would take her from me. But if I didn't allow it, the state of Florida would take her from me. So she basically would have to be sexually abused again in order for them to say that it was real and take her from him. Yeah, it's kind of like the same thing. Like, let's just keep abusing them until we can't deny it anymore. And the school system does that. And so it's hence why we homeschool. But if you're watching this and you're in the school system, I hope you have a much better experience than we do. We have not. Those of us on here have pretty much said it sucks. Like,
not me.
Well, you've never been. That's why. But anyway, so I want to say it sucks massive camel balls. Just what it is. But, it works for some people. I don't want to knock it. I can only say it didn't work for us. There is a time and a place for some kids. It's a great place to be. They get fed. They get safety. So I don't want to knock it for everyone. It just isn't generally right. Kids refuse to return. Yeah. Taking Elizabeth out was literally life or death. This is why we unschool. Hello. Welcome to coffee. Unschooling. Oh, okay. So I'm about to get totally off topic of grief of diagnosis, right?
Oh, no.
No, it's okay because you brought up unschooling. Unschooling allows you the ability, it's not really off topic, but it allows you the ability to deal with the diagnosis and to work with it in a way that it works best for your child, because it's uncomfortable for my shoulder, honey. When you are constantly having to keep in line with a curriculum, all you're doing is, let me put my coffee down, all you're doing is taking what was in school and recreating it in your home. Now, if your child already has a diagnosis of learning disabilities or emotional disturbance or SPD or Asperger's or autism, now they may need some structure, yes, but there's so much that's out of control in their life that you need to give them some control. They need to know that they have the ability to make these decisions, that their diagnoses do not make up who they are. They're just a part of who they are, but it doesn't define them. They aren't their diagnosis. They are a product of whatever it is that's going on in their life, that their choices and their decisions will make their destiny. Yeah, PTSD, dysgraphia, APD, okay, that's what it is. Fine. I have lots of letters after my name too. Let's see, I have SPD and ADHD and retention retrieval, and I don't know, I have tons of them. Auditory processing. It's really fun to have an argument with me because if my hearing is off that day and if my processing is off, like, I have no idea what you said.
Crocheted dog.
Yeah. Yes, the crocheted dog. My husband wants to look like a crocheted dog on Ambien. That had nothing to do with how I was feeling or what I was hearing.
It did.
No, it didn't have to do with what I was hearing. It had to do with what I was seeing, but I was on Ambien.
No.
Ambien was fun.
Mom,
Anyway.
You would call Leslie Robin Hood.
Okay. We're not going to get into Mommy's old Ambien moments of being Batman. That's a story for another day, and it's totally hysterical, for which I have no memory of. Okay, so my kiddo is struggling with feeling like, and he likes her or loves her because she's so, no one likes her or loves her because, yeah, it's, you know what, Miss Sarah here sometimes feels the same way, that no one likes her or loves her because of her diagnoses, because she's different. I know Elizabeth feels that way sometimes. She's coming back in. But the truth of the matter is, I think, our kids are going to take after and they're going to model what we do. All right. So if we're making a big deal out of their diagnosis and a big deal out of the grief and making it all about us, then they're going to make it all about them. All right. So yeah, I gave myself 72 hours. I was like, okay, yep, I'm going to grieve this. And then after that, I'm going to grab that bull by the horns and wrestle that fucker down. Just what it is. Sorry, Sarah.
Oh, well.
That's just what it is. Like, I don't have time for this in my life. My goal is to be their facilitator, to be their mentor, and honestly to carry the flag going forward and saying, this is how you do this. You are not a byproduct of your diagnosis. You are not Sarah the Anxious. I mean, what kind of crappy name is that anyway? Wouldn't you want to be Sarah the Warrior? Or you're not Elizabeth the Molested. You are Elizabeth the Survivor. So Becky says, my kids have sometimes felt that, but we teach different is good. Yeah, different is good. And some of the great things that come from having learning disabilities or differences is that you see the world completely differently. Like for me, I see solutions that other people don't even know exist. I know. She's like, yes, Mom finds solutions for everything. Plus, I find people who they can interact with. Yes. And you're going to find that you're really not alone. Once you start opening your mouth and you start saying, hey, this is what it is. Other people will go, really? You have that too? I'm not the only one. And it's sort of like, I don't know, maybe if you won Powerball, people start crawling out of the woodwork. People are like, oh, yeah, I didn't know that. Oh, I have that too. And you have this little bond that you can go to the other person. Like, I have a friend who has bipolar and I adore her. But I also know with bipolar, she's going to do this, right? She's going to run hot and cold. She's going to have really high moods and really low moods. But because I know that, I'm like, hey, you know what? Don't worry about it. One of the people I love most in my life has bipolar. I can wait for you when you're having a bad period. Successful people think different. No kidding. No kidding. Let's talk about Elon Musk, right? The head of Tesla. He thinks differently. He doesn't even care if you have a degree. Why? Because he wants to see what you can do. See, the thing with having a diagnosis, good morning, Lizzie. The good thing about having a diagnosis, Lizzie Amore, who's that? That's your sister.
Oh.
The good thing about having a diagnosis is that you do have a label which allows you to have processes and resources. So Becky says, people who think different make changes and create things. Yes. Think of all the great changes that have been made throughout time. People who think differently. Einstein, the dude had autism, pretty much proven, okay? 0 social skills. He couldn't even tie his own shoes. That's like a 4-year-old can do that.
I couldn't.
But totally, massive, awesome brain, okay? It's really okay to think differently. It's really okay to feel differently. And it's really okay to have a kid with a whole alphabet of diagnosis. It really is. You're not the alphabet? No? Oh,
I
yes.
said half the alphabet.
Oh, half the alphabet. Okay, half the alphabet. As long as you allow it to empower you and empower them. Yes, most famous artists have mental health issues. Oh, yes, they do. So when Elizabeth was checking into her first stay at Silver Hill Hospital, Catherine Zeta-Jones was checking out. And Billy Joel has a suite there, and Michael Jackson went there, and I don't know, there was some actor who I can't remember his name who was there just one day reading a magazine as I went to go visit her. Most artists, most people that are excellent in business, excellent in any kind of creative endeavor, which business can be a very creative endeavor, have a mental health issue, whether that is a diagnosis of LD or it's a diagnosis of an emotional health issue, let's say Asperger's or autism. And that's really all right. I think it's for us as the parents to work through our grief and not really get over it, but just give it a place. And it's okay. Sometimes I cycle back through it. Sometimes, I'll cry. I'll be like, man, I'm so sad that Elizabeth is so challenged to even hold, a part-time job. But maybe she's just looking, I have to sneeze. Maybe she's just looking in all the wrong places. So Becky says, it allows them to view the world differently. Yes, normal people don't feel the need to rethink or question the world. Yes, exactly. They're sort of just like, what are the ones that run off the cliff? They're not lemurs. They are
ghosts.
I don't know, whatever animal that is, where they just follow. I'm going to call them sheeple. How about that? They're sheeple. They don't think. They just do what they're told. And there's a place for that. No, it's not bison. But there is a place for that. And the world could not have all independent thinkers. It wouldn't be able to function. It's too many chiefs and too many cooks in the kitchen. Okay. I sometimes get really angry about how much I've lost. Yes, me too. I get really pissed off at how much I've lost. So much independence, so much what I thought my life would be like. But it's just what it is. Allison says, our daughter blows my mind every day at her strong will. Yes, I'd rather not be like the average kid. Yeah, but it's hard. I mean, I got to be honest, even as a mom, as a woman, I miss fitting in, okay, and how different my life is from where it was going. Yeah, it is different, okay? I miss being able to, I mean, believe it or not, just go to the gym. Sarah's anxiety is so high, I can't go work out. I pay for a gym membership because I have the hope that I'm going to do it. But I can't. She's 10 and she's not allowed in that room. She's not over 18. Okay? She can swim at the JCC. That's great, but she won't swim without me. And the water's too cold for me. I last like 15 minutes before I turn blue.
30 at the most.
Yeah, 30 at the most. I'm shaking. Allison says, hell yeah, it is. I don't fit in. Plus going out in public or at events is so hard with our daughter. Oh yeah, I know we have to be able to leave at any moment. Yeah, I miss my job too. And these are things that no one wants to talk about. I don't even miss going to work, but I sometimes miss being an adult. Like, I miss the ability to do it. I would not change a thing in my life to give up my time with my girls.
Your hair's in my face.
Well, then get your face out of my hair.
No, you have this awkward neck piece.
But sometimes I miss the life that I thought I'd have. Okay? I miss the fact that every time we go and do something, I know we have to be ready to leave. Whether it's too much light, it's too much sound, it's too many people, it's too overwhelming. And that gets hard sometimes, you know. And having to leave events, yes, or places right as they get fun because the child has reached their limit. Yes. Yes. We go to Disney. We really don't ride the rides. We walk around and we see people and we play in the water fountains. And we wait until there's less people.
Until the fireworks,
yeah,
ride the rides.
Constantly on guard 24/7. Absolutely. That guard never gets brought down. Whether it is to fight for my child or to wonder what's coming next. Some of you who have been on before and read some of my blog posts know that Elizabeth was a self-harmer. And if you're still on, Lizzie, you're welcome to talk about it. But when she has a rough day, it's always playing in the back of my mind.
Ow.
Sorry, sweetie pie. And, you know, I worry, what is Sarah going to do? Yeah. We do Disney in small chunks throughout the year. Yeah, because it's a lot. But even going to the movies can be hard. Allison says, we go out to dinner. I spend my time watching our daughter for anxiety or being overstimulated. Yes, which is why we often we go to Qdoba and we bring food home. It can be someone just walked by with perfume and it's too much. It can be that, you know, we go into the bathroom. I went into the bathroom at the farmer's market down off of Billy Graham Parkway and ended up going to anaphylactic shock because of the chemicals that they put in the bathroom deodorizers. So we are constantly, I mean, there are so many things I feel have been taken. I need to sit forward, honey. I don't have my glasses on. Says Becky says going to Carowinds 2 hours max in the morning. Yes, yes. Everything is done when there's not people there. Everything. And in some ways, I kind of enjoy that because I really don't like big crowds and lots of loud noises myself. But I know you need to go put stuff in your lips. But at other times, I kind of wish that we could enjoy it. I kind of wish that it would be possible to go and do Carowinds in the middle of the day. Not that I really want to stand in all those long lines. I don't. But I want the opportunity to be able to do it. I miss, you know, people can just like, oh, we can go out to dinner, we can go do this, we can do that. I don't want that. I want to go to Life Rocks, but I'm so scared to go alone with our daughter. Hello, girl, come with me. Hello. Yeah, Sarah's going to be there, and probably we're trying to get her friend Caitlin to come. It's going to be a long drive, but come.
She's awesome.
She is awesome. And there's lots of downtown. So the first time we went to Life Rocks, which is an unschooling conference in New Hampshire, it's hard when you're an extrovert and your child but can handle it. Yeah. I'm actually an X, so I'm an extrovert and an introvert. I can be very, very extroverted, but I gain my recharging by myself. But at the Life Rocks things, Allison, we spent the first year, Elizabeth really didn't even come out of the room until the last day. Yeah. So there's a water park there. There's a 25-person jacuzzi. Hello, my favorite. I know Sarah's like, oh, but I don't do the other. And the people are really cool, and there's a lot of downtime. You can go to something or not go to something. There's absolutely no pressure. And that first year, we really spent the majority of it with Elizabeth not wanting to go do anything because she was so scared of people. And we'd go for maybe a few minutes. Got to grab my coffee again. And then, oh, don't worry about it, Sarah. We're still chit-chatting. It's important to talk to moms. But then be able to go back and at Life Rock, be able to come and go as you need. And it's really peaceful. You look out the windows and the mountains are right there. You can watch the weather, roll in or roll out. You can walk the trails. There's what, honey? There are some really cool hidden spots there. There's this really cool, I'm going to call it like a crow's nest on top of the restaurant. And when the restaurant is closed between hours, between meals and stuff, you can take the spiral staircase up to the top and you can look out all over the Green Mountains. It's really cool. So there's a lot of places for someone who's overstimulated to be able to go. That's quiet because it's literally in the mountains. We often leave the conference and we walk in downtown North Conway. There's this really cute coffee shop that has all this artwork by local artists and stuff. There are some really good gluten-free restaurants down there. There's a really cute thrift shop that's run by the church where we get like a $2 crock pot. That's what we did last time we went. We flew. We didn't drive, so we had to take everything. We couldn't take everything with us. So we went to the church's thrift shop and bought supplies for that week and then returned them. It was great. It was fabulous. If you can come. Even if you fly to Boston and you drive the 4 hours, rent a car and drive the 4 hours, it's totally worth it.
Yes.
Sarah's saying yes. And Sarah has SPD and ADHD and severe anxiety, and she's looking forward to going. So, well, Caitlin may or may not come. Allison says, awesome, we would love to go with you guys. It would probably just be me and our daughter since my hubby would need to work. Same here. It's a long drive. Yeah, my kiddo has car anxiety, and having you guys there would help. Yeah, well, perhaps we should meet even before we go. See if the girls get along. I mean, Sarah's pretty easy to get along with as she sticks glue on the table. I'm not even going to look at that. Oh, paint on the table, apparently. Okay. I don't have my glasses on. I can't see. Oh, she's trying to clean up paint that she's put on the table with more paint. I love that. Very creative. So, yeah, but definitely, I mean, that was the first thing that we did. But to get back to the grief of diagnosis, and the silver lining of it is that with it, let's plan that soon. Yes, let's do that. And Becky, so she lives about a half an hour from me, and I know you're about a half an hour south. I'm sort of like in the middle of you guys, so we'll have to find a place. But that grief that comes as a parent, I find it comes and it goes, all right? I find that there are moments that I think it's great and we're doing really well, and then there are moments where it just absolutely smacks me in the face. And the reality that their lives aren't like everyone else's can be really hard. Rich and I were talking the other day, we have the responsibility of my parents that live with us, and the fact that Elizabeth probably will need financial help throughout her adulthood. And how do we financially plan for that? This is the stuff that people don't ever want to talk about. How do you financially plan for a child who has special needs? And we're not talking, Down syndrome, where you look at them and you expect that the parents are planning this. I'm talking stuff that people don't see. The stuff that maybe they'll only ever be able to have a part-time job. Maybe they're only going to ever be able to have a limited amount of relationships, a limited amount of support. How do you help them find support from someone other than yourself? Because let's face it, our time on earth is limited, and we don't know when our time is up. And what's going to then happen? These are the parts that no one wants to talk about. So if no one wants to talk about it, of course, I'm going to talk about it, right? That's how that goes. Sarah's like, yeah. Yeah, I take the hard subjects. And how do we get through that? How do we, as parents, support one another through this? And that's why I do my talks, so that you can find people that are like you. And Allison can say, hey, yeah, I deal with that too. Becky can say, hey, this is how I fight that. And that's what this is all about. It's about creating community. Allison, that's the hardest part. Our kiddo doesn't look like she has struggles or disabilities. No, neither do mine. Neither do mine. And you can't look at them and know. You can't look at them and know their massive food allergies. You can't look at them and know that Sarah can't see things correctly. You can't look at Elizabeth and know that she doesn't emotionally process things correctly. There's no way. And it's kind of like sometimes I wish they had a sign that said, be gentle with me. I don't think like you, or I don't process like you. But the age that they are, and I'm talking like tween through young adult through teen, they're the prey. And the predators are just out there looking for them because they're different. They're the ones that in the herd, because we are pack animals, in the herd would be put to the back of the line to be taken out. And that's the hard part. I'm glad they don't fit in. Like, I've gone head to head with people who are like, oh, well, your children are just so different and they're not going to have it as easy. And I'm like, yeah, well, your child's going to have no sense of self. They're like a beige cookie cutter that's just ka-chink, 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 and they have no creative ideas. They have no ability to do anything other than be told what to do. You can't tell my girls what to do. They have their own mind. Yeah, me too. Yeah. But it's still hard. It's still hard. But I will say the silver lining is I happen to know that they are being taught to value themselves, and they are being taught to know it's okay to think outside the box. And they live with a father who thinks inside the box. To you too, Sarah. But it gives them another point of view. And that's important, to know that both sides exist and that they can balance out. At least to me that's important. Maybe that's not important to you. And maybe if you're listening to this on the playback, you're still pretty pissed off at whatever diagnosis, or you thought that I was going to sit here and pity anyone. I don't pity people who have a diagnosis. They at least have a name for it. There's a lot of assholes walking around that probably should be diagnosed and they're not. I mean, God, I wish asshole was a diagnosis.
Oh, yes, please.
I do. And we could just, the letters, the letters would be ASS. What do you have? Oh, I have ASS. What does that stand for? Assholeism. That means that I only think of myself and I'm just a jerk. So, yeah. That is not part of the DMR5 or whatever is DSM-5. DSM-5, yes. So, anyway, I'd like an asshole diagnosis. I have lots of people I'd give it to. No, I don't want it for myself. I want to be able to give it to other people, like a pink slip, like, hey, you must have ASS. What is that? Oh, assholeism. Sorry. Felt like a fun idea. I could leave it. Oh, we could leave it on windshields. Okay. Anyway, totally getting off subject here. I know. It's so naughty. I'm naughty. But I do have doggies that are barking. And we have I do. And some integration to do this morning. And new family members are just as hard because you know what they don't come with? A diagnosis. I know. I wish I had a diagnosis for them. So, poor Roxy. She, on Valentine's Day, they found her on the side of the road with her throat slit from here to here, literally from ear to ear. She's it looks like a pit boxer mix, but looks much more pit. She's very cute. So you have to go to my personal Facebook page to see pictures of her because she's awesome. But she has her own. Yeah, honey. She's sleeping under the blanket. I'll let you guys see her, okay? So we're going to take a little tour of my house. Awesome. All right, I'm going to change the camera around in just a second so you guys can see her. And I'm going to put my glasses on so I can actually see. All right. Are we ready? She's sleeping, so we're going to be quiet. Okay. Where is she? She's right here. So this is our new family member. This is Roxy. And actually, Roxy does have a diagnosis. She has PTSD. So these two are going to be best friends.
Yeah, she's my buddy.
Yeah, she's your buddy. Yeah, I know. What the hell? How could people do that to her, right? Isn't she cute? She's not an old lady. She's a young lady. So look at Elizabeth has black hair today. We never know. So, but yes. So we now have a dog, and we think she has food allergies because we gave her some food yesterday and she was itchy. Oh, she's got her itchy all day. So we are a family with lots of diagnoses, and you know what? It's okay. Oh, yeah, she's so lovable. Yes, she is. And you know what? I think she was here. She's been sent to save Elizabeth and Rich because both of them have so many scars inside of their hearts. She's already started to help heal those scars, which is really awesome. So, can you go let Maymay in?
No.
Yes.
No.
And we're going to go have dog time together. Yes, he was just barking to come in. So until then, there is always grief with the diagnosis, and there's always a silver lining. And don't let that diagnosis define you or your child. Just allow it to empower you and find the resources. So, if you are watching this for the first time, make sure you go to maryharrington.com. I didn't write a blog post last week because I was too upset, but I'm going to be writing again this week, so writing and vlogging. Blogging and vlogging. Say that 10 times fast. And make sure to look at the different conferences that I'm speaking at because I've now been approved for the C Homeschoolers in Atlanta, so that's not too far. That's in July. Life Rocks up in New Hampshire in May, and the Unschoolers Rock, the water park, I think it's called, in Ohio in May. So May is a totally busy month. So until then, I will see you tomorrow morning. We're going to get back on schedule. Have a good one. Bye-bye.